Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us tmosso@the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions. Today, we're discussing a watch from the legendary CPCP collection, Collection Privee Cartier Paris, and this is the Cartier Tortue XL 8 days. So the CPCP Tortue XL 8 days, meaning it's a Tortue, it's large, and it has an 8-day power reserve, courtesy of a movement from Jaeger-LeCoultre. The watch, part of a series of timepieces never made with manufacturer movements specifically, but always recreations of Cartier's design icons from the 20th century, powered by the finest movements that could be sourced, which is a long-standing Cartier tradition, as the company did the same with LeCoultre and later Jaeger-LeCoultre throughout the 20th century. So this watch, high on style and horology, part of a series that ran from 1998 to 2008 when these CPCP models were released, and a lot of folks have made it a point to collect all of them, and this is a grand one. If you want a bigger case, it's the way to go. In rose gold, the watch is 38 millimeters wide, not inclusive of the crown. It is 11.9 millimeters thick and 48.1 millimeters from lug to lug, with a 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. I throw it on my wrist, and you can see it wears nicely, though it definitely lives up to its Tortue XL moniker. A big watch, the Tortue XL 8 days, is probably best suited for a wrist no smaller than mine. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see it in proportion. I could wear this, but I have very little clearance on each side, and you can see that easily down the barrel. However, it's fairly sloped in profile, and being under 12 millimeters thick, it will slide underneath the dress cuff. There's your over-the-top shot, which does tend to exaggerate the width of the watch, but I'd say wear this on a wrist of 16 centimeters circumference and up. The strap is a beautiful piece, as you can see from the bottom. It is a Cartier factory strap, made in France, of outstanding quality. We have medium scale, rectangular scale alligator leather on the top in black. You can see it has a little bit of bolstering to add volume, a broad folded edge, a monotone stitch, calfskin on the bottom. And this watch uses a version of the deployant clasp, originally created by Louis Cartier in 1909. It was unarguably the first deployant clasp ever created for a wristwatch, and it remains in circulation with some refinements for structural integrity and security. And one of the most important things about it is the way it crimps the strap. So the strap goes in, doubles under, and then it closes, snaps shut with a spring action, so it's a very friction-fit clasp. But there's no extra length visible externally, so it's very clean when it's sized up on your wrist. There are no strap minders. They don't have these things. Okay. The case is monoblock, meaning the bezel and the case are all one piece. Everything, the dial, the movement, it loads through the back. And so you could see from the top, the Tortue tonneau is completely seamless with no break between bezel and case. You can also see that part of the assembly is done with laterally located screws. And then everything's polished. We have a faceted sapphire cabochon on the crown, and a truly exotic cambered sapphire that does all sorts of wild things with the dial depending on the angle. But it is a sapphire, and it's difficult to get a sapphire like this to fit and achieve normal water resistance, but Cartier has the budget to do it and endows the watch with a dress watch standard of 30 meters of water resistance. We have a lovely rosette-style dial, and you can see not just a rosette, but actually a little rose motif at center. Breguet hands, blued, along with lancet-style hands for the sub-seconds and the power reserve indicator. Now, the thing about the JLC 877 8-day movement that forms the basis for this Cartier caliber, it was designed to be very high geared at the crown, so it would only demand about 55 turns to fully wind the 8 days, and so that's what you've got right here. There have been some watches like the Blancpain 50 Fathoms with its 5-day power reserve and 3 barrels that takes over 100 winds to get to 5 days. It's fun to wind your watch, but it's not fun to wind your watch and wind it and wind it and wind it. It becomes a chore after a while. So JLC used a very high-geared winding system so you can quickly energize the 8 days of power reserve. Another important thing to note is that this watch will run for longer than 8 days. tests to exhaustion have found that this movement in all of its applications, which includes this, the Master 8 Days, Master 8 Days Perpetual, Panerai PAM 190, 197, 198, they'll all run for almost 10 days before they actually stop, but 8 days is the chronometric power reserve. The watch does feature a stop seconds function, so you can stop the seconds hand if you wish, synchronized to a reference time. The original Jaeger-LeCoultre double date patent was given to A. Lange und Söhne in the early 90s to help get that company up and running. It was given by Gunter Blumlein, who was playing favorites within the group that owned JLC, IWC, and Lange at the time. JLC was a bit miffed, but being the watchmaker's watchmaker, it had to acquiesce. It went back and it patented a new double date system, which is the one you see here, and it is the one used by JLC to this day. There is a quick set for the double date, or grande date. One more thing, the Cartier secret signature is there down at 7 o'clock. Some folks look for that. On the back, Cartier has its own name for this movement, calling it the 9910 MC. It's a Jaeger-LeCoultre 877, which was itself derived from the movement created for the 70th anniversary Reverso. So you can see it features the Cartier monogram ad infinitum across a 2-barrel movement with 25 joules, a 4 hertz beat rate. You can see a polished swan's neck fine adjustment mechanism, polished screws. The bevels are mostly machine executed, but very handsome and deeply attractive. And then there's engine turning on a color contrasting base plate. What's impressive here is that it does have a 4 hertz beat rate, but it still has the 8+ day power reserve. A lot of watches will use a slower beat rate to get that power reserve up, but no compromises here were made. You can also see that the movement nicely fills the case back, so it's a good hand and glove match between movement size and case size. If you love this watch, a JLC movement in a Premier League Cartier, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.